Hello, and welcome back to the third episode of Old Street Labs podcast, The Humans Behind the Tech. Uh, my name is Rob Woodhead. I'm your host, and I was very happy to have you with us again today. So, on today's podcast, we speak to the wonderful Lucy Woodhead. As you can probably tell from her name, she's a relative of mine. Lucy's my cousin. She's also a client of Old Street Labs in her capacity as the leader of US Jetting. Lucy has a really interesting story, going from doing an internship with Ralph Lauren, doing various other things, and then ending up back in her family business, running US Jetting alongside her sister Sally. US Jetting was a business that my uncle started some 34 years ago in Atlanta in America, building high pressure water jets for commercial purposes, and they are going from strength to strength. We helped them rebuild their e-commerce platform, and the conversation we had with Lucy today was about the transition in her career, moving back into a family business, going from high fashion to kind of sewage. Pretty interesting journey, and then how to thinking about ways to modernize a business that has been around for a while, finding out kind of the discovery process of thinking about who your customer is and how to aim technology at those customers, to make it as user friendly as possible, especially for people who are running high pressure water jets in their field, and figuring out how best to sell to them, but also help them do their job, and to teach them about how to use the pressures properly. We covered a range of things. Really interesting. Hope you enjoy it. Any feedback, as always, just drop me a note. And look forward to continuing the series. Hope you enjoy the show. Welcome to the Old Street Labs podcast. The human stories behind the tech. From concept to code. Real startup journeys. Hello and welcome to the podcast. I'm very excited about today's conversation, partly because it's with my lovely cousin, and also because this podcast is about the humans behind the tech. But that doesn't always mean that someone needs to be technical to be on the show. So today we are speaking to Lucy Woodhead. She is the VP of Operations for US Jetting. And Lucy, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
I was saying that, talking to people about tech, but not necessarily they know or they're a technologist, I think it's quite interesting. And so I'm interested to talk to you about what's been going on at US Jetting. You've recently been our client, so that's part of the reason you're on. And to understand what you've been thinking about technology and how it's kind of influencing the business. But before we get into that, I wanted to kind of explain to the audience a little bit about what US Jetting is, what you guys do, how you do it. So let's kick off with that.
So we are a industrial equipment manufacturer. So the best way to describe it is if you've ever seen anybody pressure washing something like a driveway or a building, this is an industrial version of that. So it's generally used for cleaning drains and pipes. It is, our primary customers are plumbers and things like that, which is why this is quite interesting. It's not a very techie industry. So I'm happy to be that bridge. I'm not crazy technical myself, but it's been great to work with your team and learn more of the technical side, and bring that into our industry a little bit more.
Yes. I definitely want to speak a bit more about how that all works. Can you tell us a bit of the history, though, of US Jetting and how you are where you are right now?
Yeah, so my dad started the company in 1991. He moved to America, and wanted to start a business over here. He actually worked for a similar jetting company before this and then started his own one. I never wanted to join the family business, and actively sort of thought I would do other things. I did do other things, but I ended up sort of falling into the industry by accident. I had a unpaid internship in the fashion industry for 6 months after uni. I'd always worked in waitressing and things like that before that, but thought I would do a career in fashion. Eventually, my dad said he was not going to support my lifestyle of glamour, and that I needed to get a real job that actually had pay. And so I ended up starting to work for him. And it took me about a year to adjust, because at first I did not enjoy it. It was not for me. My sister also works for the company. She always wanted to be in the family business. I mean, she was the receptionist over summer holidays when she was in high school. I was the opposite. But after about a year, I started realizing that some of the things that I found a little chaotic, because that's more my dad's style,
Yeah.
that I could turn those into projects, and then there could be progress. And that was quite interesting. And after about a year, I realized that I really enjoyed it. And in January of next year, I'll have been with the company 13 years. So I absolutely love it now. But it definitely took some growing pains to get there.
That is, yeah, that's a very interesting journey. Do you, so you're in fashion before, so
Yes.
you were, and that was the kind of plan was maybe I'll have a career in fashion. You were testing things out. It
Yes.
must have been quite a wrench for you to think I'm going to go and work for this, basically, cleaning, industrial
Yeah,
cleaning
the sewer
business.
industry. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was funny. I used to get calls from my university years afterwards to try and get me to donate money to them. And they'd say, how are you using your fashion merchandising degree? And I said, well, you'd be surprised. It's not very applicable with what I'm doing now. So it was an adjustment in some ways. And at the same time, most jobs, and even the ones that seem glamorous, after a few months, it's all the same stuff. So, is your job interesting more so than is your industry interesting? And actually, I now find that we're in a fascinating industry, and, it's got an eclectic group of people working within it. But like I said, I really love it now. So it ended up being a very good transition for me. I have no regrets thinking, oh God, I could be, working in some some fashion house right now. I'm happy in the ship business.
I mean, you do sell some clothes. So, I mean,
I do, I
I'm not
do,
sure you'd
yes.
describe them as
That's the
fashionable,
merch.
but you do sell some clothes.
Yeah, that's true.
Um,
Um,
so okay. So you moved into the industry, and uh, you started to see the business from the inside, and you were kind
yeah.
of more leaning towards the operations rather than the sales, right? When you
Yeah,
first did.
so the pivotal point for me was my boss, who has always sort of been my mentor, who is our CFO, not my dad, but our CFO, and he put me into the warehouse after about a year, and that's when I started getting really interesting, because I really love process and looking at things and seeing how can we do it more efficiently, and which was fruitful ground here, because there was a lot of inefficiencies, because like any other small business, it was a survival industry. So
Mm.
there wasn't a lot of structures in the company, because it was a family business, at that point it had been going for 25 years, which was obviously a testament to their success. But I do think there are different skill sets starting businesses than growing businesses. I don't think I have the starting the business mindset. I think that you have to be very gritty, and you have to really, be able to develop something out of nothing. Whereas I really enjoyed developing something better out of something that already existed. And I think that's the place that I found that I was really interested in. And there was so many easy areas to improve that it made you build in confidence. I didn't have experience in any kind of operations. But it was sort of like, oh, I've just, hey, we've really cleaned up our warehouse. Maybe we clean this up here. Maybe we tidy up this process, and maybe we streamline communication here. So it became a great way for me to be part of the foundation of the operations of our company, because it's now when new people join, they have no idea what it was like 10 years ago. But I know how the basic structures got implemented, which helps me to be more successful, I think, in the long run.
I think that's super interesting. I think I come across a lot of startup founders, and they tend to be, as you described, gritty, determined to prove their business is going to work. But there can be some chaos that goes with that, because they've got to wear 15 different hats. They've got to
Yeah.
do the sales. They've got to do the wages and payroll. They've got to do everything. Whereas if you can bring a second generation in there, or other people that you hire to start to kind of professionalize some of the processes, that means the business can grow without that founder having their hands on everything.
Yeah. And I think it can actually be very difficult for that founder. I know my dad has found that transition sometimes difficult, because there is, they really love that grittiness. And sometimes that is so much easier because it's like, oh, I just know that this guy in the back knows exactly what I want. Whereas now I'm like, no, dad, you got to go to this person because this person goes through this department and here's why. So I can see sometimes that it's more painful for him, but I do know that that's how you have to grow. Like, you just can't grow from a 10 to 20 employee business upwards of that with the same mindset. It won't work. So at some point you have to transition. I'm sure there's many other transitions as you get bigger. We're still a relatively small company, under 50 employees. So I'm sure there's many more versions of this, and different types of skills it takes to get beyond that.
Yeah, but having people like yourself in the business who can bring that kind of operational eye or the operational improvement kind of bent to it means that you're constant, like that can be applied to any part, right? It doesn't need to just be the
Yeah.
manufacturing process. It can be the sales process and so on.
Yeah, and I've started to broaden that horizon now. So I actually get a lot more involved in sales than I ever used to, because I always loved operations. I love back office, and the idea of going to trade shows and having to talk to 100 people about the weather, was exhausting to me. But I've started to realize that it's integral that I understand our customer interactions, which sort of transitions into why we wanted to change the website. Is I've started applying that same lens to the sales department and to our marketing department, and realizing you can't just have a really efficient back office and the business will run. It has got to be the whole thing.
Yeah, right. Um, but I imagine with doing that process, you can end up, you need to bring the people along with it, right? You can't just enforce a process on people. You need to, equip them to be able to use it and see the benefits of doing it as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's exactly right. You have to buy in, and you have to get the people that believe in it. And that is probably the hardest part, is that beginning. I always remember, even it drove my sister crazy. She'd be like, oh, you have to have a process for everything. It was so annoying to her. But now she's completely into it. But you do have to have a few people that buy in, because if everybody doesn't trust it, then nobody will follow it. And therefore you can't actually see the improvement. Um, but yeah, I mean, to this day, I still maintain, and I listen to a million podcasts, and I'm trying to read lots of books about this. And hiring and getting the right people seems to be the biggest challenge that everybody faces. So that is obviously an integral part, and something that is an ongoing challenge for me.
Yeah, blimey.
Yeah.
Um, can we talk about a bit about the products you sell? I'm like,
Yeah.
I've been through this with you before, Lou, but like I'm really interested to tell the people listening and watching a little bit about what the products are and what they do.
Yeah. So, like I said, it's like an industrial version of a pressure washer. So it is high pressurized water going out of a nozzle. So we have a long hose with a nozzle at the end of it that you put into a pipe, and that cleans drains. So, it's one of those things that people never think about. And all of a sudden you realize how many, every single building has drains, every single house. So it is this sort of background thing that happens, and our machine keeps those flowing, which is why it's such an incredible industry, because it means that it's across the world. I think we're up to selling in 45 countries now.
Wow.
Um, it means that it's also, especially at times like now where the economy is a little bit hairy, in America at least. Um, it's nothing is recession proof, but it is as close to that as you can get, because no matter what, drains are gonna get blocked up and you're gonna have to clean them. So I do feel grateful at times like this, when things, obviously things slow down and it gets a little shaky, but it's a very reliable industry. And so we not only sell the high pressure water jetters, but we also sell the nozzles and the aftermarket service parts, to keep them running. So our machines, should, if they're taken care of well, they should last 20 plus years. So that's another thing that's interesting about our market is, nothing should be a quick sale, because this customer will be yours for 20 years if you do it right. So that it's not quick friendships. You don't want to have any gotchas. You don't want to just quickly sell them something that they might regret, but it doesn't matter because you got the money, because they won't come back to you. And so it means that things are very authentic in our industry. Like, you have authentic relationships with your customers, and they can smell a rat a mile away. If you sell something that doesn't work, they will find it, and all of them talk to each other. So it creates what I think is quite a nice authenticity within the industry. And as long as you make a good product and you are good to your customers, that works, I think.
Interesting. So I imagine you get quite a bad reputation quite quickly if
Yeah.
people talk to each other.
Yeah.
And who are the types of customers we talking about? What are they're kind of working for municipalities, like cleaning the drains of cities and various places, or
Yes.
what kind of person is it?
Yeah, so all sorts. So you've absolutely got your municipalities, so city drains, that sort of thing. You have primarily plumbers is the biggest share of the market. But then you get, industrial farms. You even get, the Navy. There's lots of military groups that need them. I think my dad quite proudly likes to say, the FBI has one, the NSA has one. So
Oh,
it is,
wow.
anywhere there is drains, you might get restaurant chains that want them, because that's another thing that often grease, things like that gets down the drain.
Right.
So I've heard those are the more unpleasant versions of the jetting jobs because the smell is outrageous. But dad says you just smell that and you smell money. It's all good. Uh,
Delightful,
yeah.
absolutely delightful. But where there's muck, there's brass, and there's lots of saying.
Yeah.
One man's rubbish is another
Yes.
man's treasure.
Yep.
So that I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
So that kind of neatly, I guess, brings us on to like having all these different types of customers, having all these, having a growing business. You've turned to tech. Well, yeah, I guess you had a website before, right? Which
Yeah.
was doing a certain job for you. What made you think about improving it? What were the driving factors for you?
I think there's two major things. One, we wanted a lot more hands-on control of the website. So with our previous website team, if I wanted to even update a price, I had to send an email. We couldn't do anything. We couldn't update new photos, or we could, but it had to be through them.
Mm.
So what's been brilliant about working with your team is because it's all through Shopify, we can do, you guys did the heavy lifting of setting it up, but we can now update prices. Create product pages, do images, and it's so simple. So object, the plan number one was to make it so we could modify it. And then the primary other function was to reduce the friction points for our customers. So because it's industrial equipment, people don't grow up knowing what jetters are. They don't always know what model their machines are. So there seemed to be this really big gap of knowledge between what our customers wanted and what they were getting, as far as literally the machinery parts they were buying were not correct for their machines. So we were
This is
saying,
through your original website rather than through your
yes,
sales team, right?
yes. Yeah, exactly. Through the website only. The sales team were fine because they could walk them through it, and they could also tell the customer, hey, you're saying you want a nozzle for a 30-30 unit, but you only have 48 teens. I think you might be, and we could correct them.
Yeah.
But the website didn't have that function. So we found that we were having to call after every online order to verify, hey, you've picked this, but we're not sure this is the right product for you. So what we've done with your team is to create profiles, and basically to make all these different points to help drive the customer to the correct product.
Right.
We wanted to give them confidence, because I can imagine that, so we can talk about the different personas in a second. We sort of know we have a few different types of people buying. We've got what we call Bubba, who's the older customer who is probably not really on the website. He's, he's making fun of all the whippersnappers that are on the website, and he just wants to call in and place his order. But if we can make it as easy as possible for him, he might do it. Then you have the receptionist, who's often a really common person ordering, but they are not the end user. So they have no idea what they're ordering. And I imagine it's a bit like when they send me to Home Depot to pick up screws, and then I find out there's a wall of screws, and you're calling being like, okay, well, there's 2,000 options. What on earth did you want? So it's sort of navigating between those people. Then you've got the younger team who are great on the website, but still have that information gap of not
Mm.
always knowing what they want. So between those sort of three groups, we had to try and make it as seamless as possible. And that's something that I think we've achieved with your team. And we continue to get feedback on and try to improve, as I know that will be an ongoing process to help our customers be guided to the right product.
Yeah. Like we took you through the process of kind of identifying who the customers were, and it's really interesting to talk about those three groups because they're quite disparate, right? Some are like Bubba, the great named
Yes.
kind of older generation, technophobic in a way,
Yeah.
right? They probably have a smartphone, but they're not using it to the same capacity someone like younger generations would.
Yeah.
So they need to be really guided through it, really kind of drawn by the hand in a simpler way possible, and also in a way that they are used to. So making it like
Oh.
it can't be a different process to they have in other phones. Other apps, sorry. And then the other ones who are far more. So Bubba's going to know a lot about the different types of jetters, and is going to know what hose size and hose end, and some of them have fantastic names. We'll come on to that in a second. Whereas the person working in the business who is on the phones just wants to be able to know exactly what they want to get, because they don't know the difference between a 4018 and a 3310.
Close enough.
Okay.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's interesting to sort of think about, and we had not thought of that till your team started prompting that, saying, okay, what are the main buckets of customers you have, and trying to make it work for all three.
Yeah.
We'd never really thought that through. We knew those customers existed, but we had not considered, okay, we've got to navigate the website as Bubba, and now as this, receptionist, and now as the tech expert. So that was really a good exercise, I think, for us to go through.
Yeah, it's helpful for people, our customers or anyone building a business, to really dig into who their customers are, and not just say I've got one type of customer, but actually think about the different categories and try as best you can to figure out what the different sale is and the marketing is to each one. Um,
Yeah.
I think that was pretty interesting. Anyway, uh, a note on the products that you sell on the website, because you're not selling the big one, right? The big one is the big Jetta, which is basically can be a trailer, can be
Yep.
normally trailers, right? Which have a
Yep.
big tank on, a big high pressure, water jet plus hose plus nozzle and so on. You're not selling those on the website, so it's mainly the accessories to it and stuff which is
Yeah.
aftermarket.
Yeah, so the Jettas are more information on the website.
Yeah.
They're not technically for sale there, which is an interesting difference in our industry, and our competitors are the same way. None of us have them technically. Well, not none. There's a couple of people that do, but I think it's because it's not something that we feel you should just click a button and buy.
Right.
We should understand what you're looking for, and we do find that. Customers sort of call us all the time with an idea of what they think they need. And our job is to make sure we understand what they want and help guide them, because sometimes what they're looking for and what it needs to do, we're like, those are two very different things. And sometimes customers are adamant, and we're here to give them what they want. So if they cannot be convinced, we will sell them whatever they think they need. But we really try and steer them. And sometimes we'll just say, look, can we bring a machine and do a demo for you? Because you're saying you need this. Like, a common one for us is people think they need hot water jets. You don't. The industry standard is not to use hot water. But every now and then you get a customer who's jetting grease, and they just
Right.
assume you have to have hot water, because I know when I'm washing up in my sink, I use hot water. But actually it doesn't work, because hot water melts it and it just reforms down the pipe.
Right.
Whereas cold water breaks into tiny pieces and it actually will flow. So sometimes it's explaining that to customers, and hoping that you can change their mind. And every now and then you get someone who's just adamant, and we say, okay, we'll give you what you want.
I've clearly learned a lot about Greece in the last 13
Yeah.
years. But that goes back to your point, right? Of the relationship that you guys have with your customer is really long.
Yes.
20 years, and so you don't want to be rushing into it. It's a bit like dating to get married versus
Yeah.
other kinds of dating. And so you're speaking to them, giving them as much advice as possible, right up
Yeah.
front,
Yeah.
making sure
Because
they're
we
getting the
know
right thing.
if they pick something that we're like, that is not going to work, all they're going to do is get angry at us. So, and there's no moment that they look back and say, oh, actually, no, you did tell me that that wasn't going to work. And so you're exactly right. It's really trying to make sure that we guide them the best we can, and understand their problems. And sometimes that requires us physically showing them, because that's often the best way. But it is a bit tricky if you're sort of selling something to a country across the world. You can't exactly drag your trailer over there quickly and do a quick
Right.
demo for them.
Yeah, I guess. Do you have? I mean, yeah, with 45 countries and in your sales region so far, how do you do that then? Do you I guess you're going to have to do more videos, more understanding
Yeah.
kind of pieces.
Well, that's where the technology helps, because it's giving that accessibility. So, we might even say to them, we'll go test something. You're saying you need this machine. We're going to go find a similar situation and take our Jetta there, and we will show you how it works, which, now with various technology, that is a very feasible thing to do. And that's quite incredible. So, that's where we want to improve that piece. And we have recently hired someone also to help with all of our video content, because we realize that is, funnily enough, our industry is a little old fashioned, so we can feel like we're quite, high tech, even though we're way behind other industries. But it doesn't matter, because in our industries, that's still relatively new. So even though it seems a little old fashioned to think, gosh, videos, I think, are where it's at. We can actually do that and still be a little bit groundbreaking in the industry.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as we started, I thought, there's so much video content out there about making stuff or building stuff or interesting industries which people don't get to see behind the scenes of. I think US jetting and the jettisoning is ripe for that, and so
Yeah.
you can grow I'm sure there are other jetters doing it, but you guys could do it very well, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's even ones. One of my teammates was telling me the other day that you can do ASMR jetting videos. I don't know if you're familiar with the ASMR scene, but I was like, the problem is the people that are trying to sort of relax or fall asleep to our jetting machines probably aren't in the industry to buy one. So
Right.
I'm not sure that we're hitting the audience we want there.
Yes, it's
But
it's
good to know it's an
again,
option.
it's going back to your audience and making sure that you're hitting them with the marketing
Yeah,
rather than just doing something fun.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So the website's gone live, and you've seen it been working for a bit. Have you
Yeah.
seen much of a change in your sales, or is it have you how has it been for the first period?
So it's been good. I mean, the hard part for us is summer is already a little bit of a slower season, so it's not like we're going to see it booming, but we are already seeing an increase in our online leads. And the thing that is crazy is how much more editable it is. I mean, the first 2 or 3 weeks of us doing it, I was just so excited every day logging in. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so great. We can change a price, we can change a picture, we can upload a video. And that is just, it is phenomenal because we could do nothing before. So that has been an incredible change. And I do feel like we're seeing things come out of the sort of summer season right now, and we're seeing increases. And I think it will only increase from there because it gives us such visibility
Mm.
to see, okay, what is working and what isn't working. So I think that it's been a tremendous success already just by the fact that we can make changes as we go. And I'm excited to see that continue.
And that piece we said earlier about bringing the team along with you and making sure that they can understand it. How's that been in terms of an education for? Do the sales team use it and things like that?
So the salespeople, they're not so admin strong, so I'm always a little nervous letting them touch things that are permanent. But I do have about 4 to 5 different team members within the company that can edit it. So it is, our sales manager, our VP of sales, but I also have a few different people in the operations side who help, upload profiles, who enter in tracking numbers and all that stuff. So it's been easy to get the buy-in though, because everyone's so excited. They've known, even if they weren't part of our website before, they know that this is a new thing that we can do. So the buy-in has been pretty easy. I think everyone has been very interested in it and given lots of ideas, which has been great.
That's good. To your point, earlier, getting buy-in is so important to
Yeah.
make sure there's longevity with it and it's used and the processes are in place and people use the processes that are there. Because if it's that starts to go wrong and the trust goes, then it can be really difficult to get that back.
Yeah.
Um, so, uh, how would you say the process went? Is it quite a learning experience for you as someone in a small business, kind of incorporating some new tech? You had some old tech, but in doing the new tech, and this isn't really a comment for how good me and my team were. It's more about how did you find bringing more technology into the business, and has it kind of spurred you on to do more, or is it like, okay, let's bed this in and settle down first?
No, I think it's what was really helpful is understanding how to translate some of the ideas we had. So what I have learned through this process is getting more familiar with what is feasible and how that works, sort of thinking about it from a technology standpoint, because um, we wanted to make these profiles and we wanted to guide customers to buy the right products. Um, and at first, I think we sort of had 10 different ideas how to make that happen. I think we had to narrow it down to 5. And then it's only as you start working through the logistics of that you realize, okay, even of that 5, 3 or 4 is probably good. So but I think it has massively transformed the way we think about technology because now we keep saying, okay, let's take it a step further. What can we add on to this? So I think it's given us a great starting point. And now we understand the right way to question things because I think that was really scary. Before we found your guys, I would call these website companies and they're like, yeah, we can do it. We can do it. And you're like, okay, but I don't know technology. It feels quite
Mm,
complicated what I'm asking. When you answer so quickly, we can do it. I worry you're not understanding what I'm saying.
right.
But with you, you had a lot of questions about how that would work. And I think then throw in the fact that we're cousins, there was an added layer of trust. But I just felt like in general, you did not just say, yeah, we can do it. We can do it. You were really trying to understand what we were looking for, and that gave me comfort. And I do think we spent a lot of time at the beginning understanding what each other was saying, because it is, not only is our industry very unique, what we were looking for, it's sort of a weird thing to think, what do you mean your customers are buying stuff but they don't really know what they're buying? But it's just recognizing this is just, it's kind of like, if I said to you, you need to buy a component for your fridge right now, you would not know the model of your fridge off the top of your head. But if we, as fridges do, they have a sticker right inside of the door so you can get all the information. We've done that now on our Jettas, but we're also trying to do that on the website. So there's a place you can click and see all the information about the different jetting models that you have to help guide that. So it was identifying all those points, and I definitely see us continuing in that direction and wanting to lean more into that to guide our customers. I'm still learning how, but it feels like once you get to step 1, you can get to 2, you can get to 3, you can get to 4.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, in a general sense about taking on technology, I think you're in the same boat as many small businesses are, right? You probably have a bunch of SaaS products, so probably an accounting software. You probably maybe have a CRM software and so on, which are kind of out of the box, quite easy to use. But actually getting something which is bespoke to you and tailored to your need, that can be quite scary, because you can go on the internet and find 100,000 stories about people spending way too much, getting duped, or just there's a miscommunication which ends up being the issue. So we come across that a lot. And so those early conversations, we find you've got to dig in, and that's not for everyone. Some people like to just go, no, come on, let's just get started, and not have those. But I insist on it, because otherwise you end up not understanding it, but B, building the wrong thing. So
yeah, and I think it is very scary. If we have a company that's so driven by my sister and me, so we're a slightly younger generation. If my dad was trying to do this, it would be absolutely terrifying for him, because you are absolutely entrusting this thing. So even Sal and I don't know a ton about the website, or didn't before, at least. So it is this scary thing, and you sort of call up these website companies and they tell you all these things, and you don't know what's accurate and what's right. And every other week my dad would walk in and say, oh, we've got another another email that says they can really boost our search engine optimization by doing this. But it's figuring out who you trust. But I do think, kind of like in our industry, for you guys, once we trust you, it's sort of a lifeline, because then anytime just the other day, my dad thought it was appropriate to call you at 9 o'clock at night to ask you about some company that called him. But that's because we have that trust of, we can run it through your guys' lens, and you'll either say, yeah, that sounds like a great company, try and work with them and see what they can do. Or no, we've worked with them. It's not what you think it is.
Yeah, and that goes again to your point about like long-standing relationships. We don't have 20-year relationships yet, because we're only 5 years old. But I do. A couple of our customers are 5 years in the making, and because you end up being a trusted partner, we like to call it innovation partner, but you're there at the end of the phone to answer questions, because tech is tough, right? Tech is difficult. It's not, if you're running your business, it's not something it's necessarily get train in order to do better. You might hire people, but then how do you know how good they are? It's a tricky one.
Yeah, exactly.
The zeitgeist at the moment is all AI. Have you thought about, has that come across your world at all? Or have you thought about how that might be something that you guys use? Or do you use it already?
Not yet. I think about it a lot. First, I got fascinated by AI just from like a, philosophical lens, which is not really related to our industry. I feel like AI is such a fascinating topic because it challenges so much about our humanity that's really interesting. But as far as bringing it into the company, I'm still working through that. I know there's some obvious things we should be doing. I want to be bringing it into our meetings and like recording transcripts and assigning tasks. And I just, with your persuasion, we had some long chats over the summer about ChatGPT. So I have signed up for a subscription for that to try it out, because even from somebody who, I've grown up with computers, and I like using it, I like technology. It does feel like a hard thing to sort of just bring, because you're not sure what to do with it yet. So it's almost like you want to ask ChatGPT, like, how should I be using it? So I've done a little exploration of that, but it feels like something I have to actively work on. It doesn't feel like something that's organically going to just be like, oh, wow, I just learned this thing that will help us. I have to seek out what is going to be useful for our industry. So in that way, it's a little challenging. You almost want, and I'm sure these people definitely exist, like a consultant to come in and say, okay, you could do AI for that, and then show us how to do it. Because it's obviously all around, but I don't think in our industry it's massive yet. Probably because it's very industrial. So, and our machines are built by humans. Like these aren't even, like cars that are made by robots. So it in some ways it's hard to understand exactly where it could fit in with us.
Yes. We should have more conversations about AI. Ben is doing some pieces around the consultancy stuff. There are
Oh yeah.
lots of AI consultants around.
Okay.
Um, some of them are more focused on how to harness the likes of ChatGPT and other Gen AI large language model, how to harness those within your business. Others are more like, well, actually, with this some process automation pieces you can pull
Hmm.
together, so you can do more. At the click of one or two buttons, you can do a long process as opposed to having lots of humans having to do lots of
Yeah.
different tasks. But we can have there are. I think what you're in a position of many small businesses at the moment, which is they've heard about it. They're testing it out by using it themselves, but actually the implications of this tool are slightly difficult to fathom without doing lots of research yourself,
Yeah.
because it doesn't, it's not a tool which does one thing. It can do a whole load of bunch of stuff,
Yeah.
and which is going to be the most efficient, which is going to bring you the most return on investment. All these pieces are probably quite difficult for you to fathom at the moment. And do you have the time to study AI? No, you don't have the time to do that.
No. And it's
Um,
like, it's all a different subscription. It's like, okay, well,
yeah.
we can do a heat map on your website subscription, and then you can do a CRM subscription and all this. And you sort of think, I hope we're choosing, kind of like we're talking about the website. It's a little bit feeling around in the dark, and you just hope
Mm.
that you don't end up with 10 subscriptions that you're not actually getting any good return from.
Yeah, they've all gone down the subscription model, and I get it. It means they have a recurring revenue.
Yeah.
Um, but they are, yes, it's there's going to be lots of flux in the industry, I think. And we can go into the reasons and wherefores of that. But ultimately, I think the world is really shifting and changing in terms of what's out there, what's going to be out there. There's going to be a new product every 2 or 3 months that might be quite interesting. But
Hmm.
like you said, you don't want you don't want to build your business around something which will then change in 2 minutes later.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, no, perhaps we can have more conversations about that in the
I
future.
really like
And
that.
then you can come back on the podcast when you've like learned loads about it and tell all the audience
Yes.
about
The
your
successes and the fails.
exactly. Let's hopefully it's more in the first category than the
Yes.
second.
Yeah, that sounds good though.
Um, so what else is a business looking at the moment outside of AI? Where else are you looking to expand internationally more? Are you looking? Is there much more to go after in the US?
I think there still is a lot to go after in the US, because if you think there's, so many thousands of plumbers, and not every plumber does jetting, and they can as part of their repertoire. So for us, there's still expansion with the US. There is obviously international expansion. It just gets a little bit tricky to sort of say, do we focus on the world? Do we focus on a country? Do we focus on a city? Um, to me, the biggest thing we're focusing on right now is really that video content and making sure our website has the best information. Going back to we were talking earlier about, do we have a video for every different type of troubleshooting, for every different type of nozzle to show what it can do? So for us, it's updating all of our content, and just trying to grow the industry, but also staying within. We have that small business feel, and we want to maintain that. We want our customers to know that when they call us, they get a human. They
Mm.
are they to feel that relationship. So we always like to grow in a sustainable manner, so that it's not just growth for the sake of growth, because I know my sister and I are hoping this is our sort of 30-year career. So we want to build it, and we want to be able to keep our arms around it. For me, a lot of it is growing our team and growing our talent. I think one of the challenges that you can face in family businesses, and it depends how each one is structured. But sometimes, and I think you and I had a conversation about this over the summer, is I have to sort of seek mentorship sometimes outside of the business, because it's if you're running a business, the world is telling you what works and what doesn't work, but you don't necessarily have a boss who's sitting you down and saying, hey, I want you to work on this and you need to improve this. So you have to be self-critical. And so that's where, I get very interested in podcasts, and I try and listen to a lot of business podcasts and read a lot of business books, because a lot of it is making sure that I'm challenging myself, because it's very easy to get in a comfortable position. And, I remember I got my MBA a few years ago, my master's in business, and it was actually really hard. I forgot, you sort of forget how hard it is to learn stuff again. And I remember thinking in that moment, okay, I've got to remember how this feels, because if you're not struggling a little bit, if you're not a little bit uncomfortable, you're probably not growing, and you're probably coasting. And reminding yourself of that, because I think when you're in charge, it's easy to sort of get on that sort of path and realize that you're challenging your team, but you're not challenging yourself enough. So that's
Right.
my own sort of personal thing that I'm focusing on as well.
Amazing. I think that's fascinating for any founder, figuring out the balance between the two. The balance between, or not just founder, but owner, of like challenging yourself and pushing yourself as hard as you can, but also pushing your team, but also finding time to take away from the business so that you can, recharge, take some time out, because there's, it's quite easy to fall into one or the other camp. It's quite difficult to have the balance. But the senior person thing, the mentor thing, I think we spoke about, because I'm aware of it for my own business, right? And aware of it that, you have your sister, I have my business partner, and they're great to speak to, and they're great to kind of bounce ideas off. But having someone who is outside of the business, who can give you kind of advice and their perspective from their other experiences, I think is pretty valuable. So
yeah,
I'm glad
because the longer you
there.
stay in your own business, the less experience you have in other businesses.
Right. Exactly.
And even here, I try and say, okay, I've got to go visit some of our vendors and just see how they run their warehouses and just get ideas, because it's just so easy to get siloed, and it's you have to force yourself out of that box, and it's sort of an ongoing challenge, and it's an interesting thing to keep tackling, and to sort of actually dedicate time to just trying something new, which at the time feels really inefficient use of your time. I mean, even looking into AI, you sort of think, oh, do I really want to spend 30 minutes just researching AI companies? Is that, I could be answering all my emails, but actually answering my emails isn't helping me grow. So it's sort of putting aside time to develop and learn, as opposed to have a specific task you must get done in that time.
Yep. It's the giving yourself time for growth yourself, and finding time to do that, because there's always a to-do list to do somewhere, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Brilliant. Okay, so last question. It's a bit of a right left. What's an Americanism for? It's a bit out of left field. There you go. If US Jetting was a song or a band, who would it be?
Ooh. I'm not sure this is accurate, but the immediate thought I first thought of was Spice Girls.
Okay.
We've got lots of different characters. Some who bring different things to the table and always keep it interesting. I'm not sure which Spice Girl my dad would be, but
Scary, surely.
I don't know. Ginger felt right.
Okay.
So it's a bit sassy,
Yeah.
So we'll go with that.
Amazing. Lucy, if anyone wants to get in touch with you, how do they do it? What's the best way to find you, if anyone's interested to talk to more?
They could, I mean, I would love to say I'm really big on social media, but I'm terrible on social media. I'm trying to, going back to that whole philosophy and social media and AI and all that stuff. But I'm happy for them to either email me, or I technically do have a LinkedIn that I need to update. I'd have to give you my handle though, because I don't know it off the top of my head.
That's okay. We can put it in the
Email.
description.
Yeah, exactly.
And the website is?
The website is www.usjetting.com.
Brilliant.
Yes.
Lucy, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Really appreciate it.
It's been very fun.
It's been really, really fun to talk to you. Good luck with the future. I look forward to having more conversations about AI and how we might be able to help you in different ways.
Yes, that sounds exciting. Thank you so much for having me.
Great. Thanks for listening to the Old Street Labs podcast. We'd love to hear from you, so connect with us on LinkedIn or on our website at old.st.